Hello and welcome back. So joining me this evening is Sean Finch. He's a Heritage Party candidate for the London Assembly. Hello, Sean. How are we doing? All good?
I'm good, thank you, David. Yeah, thanks for having me on, brother.
You're welcome. Just so people get a little heads up of who you are. Could you just give us a little bit of your history and your background? And how it led to where you are today, standing as a candidate for the London Assembly.
Oh, mate. I didn't think I would ever be doing stuff like this until only about 2016. I mean, my background is obviously I'm Sean Finch. I'm currently a London Assembly candidate for the Heritage Party. That's David Curtin's party. Oh, mate, well, it's a little bit of a long journey for me. I mean, I've always been a sort of person of like, doing one's part. I've done lots of service jobs like. I was a postman. I was in a territorial army. I was a firefighter on call one. I volunteered with St. John Ambulance. So I always had that sort of civic kind of, roll up your sleeves and sort of just get on with it sort of mentality about me. And I was like, it was really weird with me because I was like, even though I studied government and politics when I was in sixth form and stuff and A level and stuff like that. I never thought I'd actually be a candidate. Like it just interested me. Like, you know what I mean? I found it interesting, but I never thought I'd be standing as a candidate. And then in 2016, it all kind of changed because, we had the referendum, and then you had the 1-2 punch of then Trump, the KO punch. And then everything kind of fell apart, not in the sense of that Brexit was a bad thing or Donald Trump was a bad thing, but then you just saw the mask of sanity. The facade just then came off of the mainstream media, of the establishment or the state, where you want to say it, and it revealed that these people were not what you think they are. They're not democratic. They're not liberal in the classic sense. I mean, and I was seeing this, and it just got to a point as well where everything was becoming insufferable and no longer fun. Like I would say that you can't even go to see a superhero movie now. I mean, I just want to see a guy get punched in the face, but now you're sort of run now you're getting this sort of woke social justice warrior / feminist, sort of message shoved down your throat of no matter what you watch now, no matter what, it's just constantly there. So I would say it's sort of like Trump, in a much lesser scale though. This whole culture war thing created me in the sense of being a political candidate. So even though it's only been 5 years since I've been politically active, but I've stood in two MP elections, 2 councillor elections, and now the London Assembly. So I've done 5 elections in 5 years, which is that's really something. Usually it's 1 election every 4 years, but I've done 5 in 5 years. So I've been sort of almost non-stop, doing interviews, delivering leaflets, speaking at hustings and stuff like that. So I've been pretty much non-stop. And funny enough, how I actually met David Curtin was quite a funny story, because him and I stood against each other in the 2018 Lewisham East by-election, because an MP resigned and it triggered a by-election, and it was absolutely disgraceful because not a lot of people know. A lot of the mainstream media didn't really pick it up, even though it was the only election going on at the time. And there was like pretty much a mini riot that occurred outside of this Salvation.
I remember, yeah.
Because not because of me and David. David was in UKIP at the time. I was in a party called the Libertarian Party, which is pretty much gone now in my respect anyway. And we couldn't believe that they were protesting. It was a Labour group, because it factually is a Labour group. Its president Stand Up to Racism, which is actually ironically a racist organisation. Because even with my friend, who happened to be a black guy, dreadlocks, he was being called like a coon, and all of these kind of slurs and stuff like Uncle Tom. And they were massive, and even white people calling him that. That's the amazing about it. But their president is Diane Abbott. Officials are Labour, MPs and Labour councillors and just Labour sort of officials. So that's how me and David met, because we couldn't believe. I gave a speech about, still on YouTube now. It's like I gave a speech about how absolutely disgraceful. I mean, I was just off the fly because I couldn't believe what was going on. Like, you know, like it was like this gauntlet getting in, and me and David sort of brazed it together, and we were being pushed and shoved. You know, like, and we were going in to any member of the public this was happening to, no matter what their colour was or whether they were a candidate or a member of the public. We got in there. I gave a speech about how bloody disgraceful it is that, you know, like it was for Anne-Marie Waters, who's the leader of For Britain, and she didn't even turn up. And yet they still continued this riot. So they had no intention of allowing this democratic hustings, this debate to actually proceed, because the Labour candidate was so useless that they felt as though if she opened her gob, she would actually probably lose one of the safest Labour seats in the country. So instead, they sent their fascistic-minded mob instead. And then after, David gave a great speech, and he was interrupted by a white woman calling him racist. So that was another hilarious thing. Again, it's all on YouTube.
So you say she called him a racist, you say?
Yeah. So a white woman called David a racist. I've got a channel, by the way, called, I'm just going to shield myself. Delivering Liberty. And if you go to that, you'll find that video. Like,
I'll check it out.
Because it's funny because I have a podcast as well. Yeah, and David was on Resistance GB's podcast, and I was telling the story, and I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to make a video about this. And the next day after, so it's only about 3 months old, this video. So it's called something like when good people are indoctrinated, something like that. It's called something like that, but search for it. It's a half-an-hour video, a documentary almost, of how I met David and what happened on that fateful day. And then after, I said that the police inspector came in and said, oh, we've got to end the hustings because there's a riot going on outside in the streets. So I just went, why not have this? So after the meeting ended, I went up to all of the other candidates who were present, because Labour didn't show up, Conservative didn't show up, Green didn't show up, but because she was bullied out of it, she was getting apparently she's getting inundated with emails from Stand Up to Racism saying, if you turn up, you're a traitor to your race, because she was a black woman. So she was bullied out of it. Anne-Marie obviously didn't show up. So all of the other remaining sort of 10 candidates, I think, I said, I know Catford really well, I was brought up here. There's a Wetherspoons pub around the corner. Let's go and continue the hustings. So I'm not having this, you know, and we're not having this, letting them win, you know what I mean? So only myself, and my team, the UKIP guys, Democrats and veterans, and the Monster Raven Looney Party. They were the only 4 that showed up, and we had an absolutely cracking night. I wasn't really into filming back then, but I wish I did. And we had one too many drinks, you know, and all this. It was just great laugh, you know, just a really great night of that. But that's how we met. So awesome. After all of that, I decided I left my party eventually, and then David called me up and said, "Oh, look, Sean, I'm running for mayor of London. I want you to be on my team, you know, as in campaigning." And, you know, be my campaign manager or assistant, whatever title you want to give me, I don't care. And, you know, and help me run, win London, basically. Because I know you're a bit proactive. And I said, okay, great. So I also got this party I'm going to start. It's called a Heritage Party. Don't tell anyone though. But it's a socially conservative party. I said, and I know you're a libertarian, Sean. And I said, that's okay. I'm not a conservative. I consider myself a libertarian. But, you know, there is some overlapping on some things, but it is a completely separate, you know, philosophy. So I said, well, I'm not worried about that, but I'll definitely help you with your campaign. And then it just got to a funny thing where, because I was already running for independent candidate for London Assembly anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it just got to this weird sort of thing where I'm running, I'm like the lead of his campaign, but yet coincidentally, I'm also running my own campaign for London Assembly. And then David pretty much just went to me, he said, look, Sean, look, just join the party, mate. And you'll just be number 2, right? I'll be number 1, you be number 2. We'll find a group of other people to be on the list. And I just went, Oh, the hell with it. Yeah, go on. because I agree. I've read it. It's a great manifesto. It really is. And obviously, there's some things I disagree with, but I always say that you will never ever read a manifesto unless you write it like how David did. You will never agree with a manifesto 100%. You will agree with probably 55% to whatever. I agree with it. I say about 70% of it, 75% of it, and that's all you really need. Really, 51%, and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? So I agree with quite a lot of what David has to say. So it doesn't conflict really too much on me and on a
Well,
sort of
a lot of what he
moral
said,
fundamentals.
a lot of what he said, and what you guys say, as the Heritage Party, I wholeheartedly agree with, and uh, especially with your policies for London, it bloody needs it. What I was going to do, Sean, quickly, because right of you, just going to have a quick look at a video that's actually on the Heritage website. I've just kicked it. I've got my computer,
Yeah.
so I'll just share that so the viewers can see. So it's just your policies, and we'll have a little talk afterwards about what it's about. It's only 1 minute long, so we'll get to that. Hang that up on there. And there he is, the man himself. Lovely. I think it's short and sharp. It touches a few nerves, doesn't it? And I think we can all agree with that. Really.
It only touches nerves if you've been sort of indoctrinated all of your life through the education system, and like you generally think like traditional family values is somehow a terrible thing. Like it's crazy because that's not even like. We've had traditional family values since only the previous generation. Do you know what I mean? This is not like, and it's worked. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas now people have been living this kind of new age kind of, free, I mean, yeah, you're free. You can be a free spirit and still be a traditional family person. But in terms of, I reject family, I would do that. I'm far happier alone and all of this. And, the bitter truth is, no, you're not. Do you know what I mean? Like we're human. It's like we need a compatible kind of person. That's what we're designed for. We're designed. No man is an island. You know what I mean? So we're social animals and all of this, But yeah, it's like it's funny because that video itself that was actually donated to us by just a fan of David. So that was just someone that was like that's the first ever like video we ever uploaded because you can tell. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I thank the person who made that video, but now we make a little bit more sort of sophisticated types of like video now. But yeah, it's still there because, like you say, it just gets straight to the point. So we just thought. Yeah, we just keep it. Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? So it was great that someone made it though. So yeah.
But it's good. I think like these the policies and stuff I've seen coming from yourself and Curtin pushing is just basically it's stopping all this corrosion of society. As you just touched on there, the left, been at the attacking the nuclear family unit for a while now, and just generally breaking down our society, and the Heritage Party, the words alone there, when I read that, hairs stand up on the back of my neck because I think of Sadiq Khan allowing Black Lives Matter not once, twice, but three times to vandalize, our statues, and war memorials in London.
Well, he
So
wants to go further than that. He wants to
wants
remove
to remove
statue. I
them.
mean, he called. Oh my God, what's the fancy name he calls it? I mean, look. If you ever got to know me, I just say it as it is. Like, for example, I don't call grooming gangs. I call it child rape. That's just what I call it, right? Because that's what it is. But with the diversity
Commission of diversity in the public realm. Yeah.
in the public realm. I mean, that is just a really poncy way of saying we want to knock down statues. Like, you know what I mean? We want to destroy your heritage. And that's why that's obviously the reason why David is called the party, the Heritage Party, because that is part of our heritage. It's like all of these things, like things like the green belt. I mean, I'm shocked that I mean, I don't want to like throw mud, what other fellow sort of freedom-loving candidates, but you've got Lawrence Fox just recently just come out and said, "Oh, I want to build all over the green belt," and like you're thinking, your party's called Reclaim, mate. Like you're meant to be reclaiming our heritage, reclaiming our heritage in a way, not sort of getting rid of it.
A lot of people I've spoken to recently seem to think that he's a paid opposition. They have the same funders, the Reclaim and Reform Party have the same funders.
That is a fact. That is not. So I don't know about the opposition. Well, I'll tell you this. Well, let me just say this: that obviously, Reform UK and Reclaim have now formed an alliance. That obviously Lawrence Fox is running as mayor for the Reclaim Party, and Reform UK, just because simply think they don't have a good enough candidate to put as mayor anyway. I mean, Farage could have been one, I suppose, because he lives in Greater London Authority. He lives down the road from me, funny enough. And Tice is just not right for London. Do you know what I mean? Like he's like Brian Rowe. I mean, again, I don't want to throw mud, but they're just not the right kind of people for London. Like I can't see Richard Tice and Brian Rose representing Lewisham or Brixton. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, these are in the London Authority. So yeah, but with Lawrence, I've met him. I'll be honest with you, I've met him multiple times now. I didn't, and I take people as they are. Like I don't care whether they're on a different party or whatever. If they're a nice person, they're a nice person. Just like how I feel about Piers Corbyn. I mean, if you told me a year and a half ago that I would be associating myself with Jeremy Corbyn's brother, I just wouldn't have believed you. But Piers Corbyn, he's a nice guy. He really is just a genuinely decent bloke. I can't say the same about Jeremy. He seems very snobbish. But Piers is genuinely a good guy, and like, I probably would never agree with his economic policies. Because again, I'm a libertarian. He's kind of like I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I think he's more like a Marxist kind of like economics kind of guy. Yeah. So we're like totally opposite of economic liberty. You know what I mean? Like I think less taxation and less government interference in the market, and he thinks total opposite. So but yeah, I think he's a great genuine guy. Where compared to Lawrence Fox, like you say, he just feels a bit false. I don't know. Like he doesn't feel like his heart is really in it. Like, so
we've had a few people I know that have helped out with his campaign, and they pretty much said the same, of what you just said there. They didn't really feel, and they took, I won't say any names, but they took a few people down here to help fill his bus. And then they were given, glasses of champagne or cocktails or whatever on a bus. But apparently he didn't interact with anybody. He didn't really make time for anybody. And he didn't come across as a people person.
So you have champagne socialists.
Yeah,
he is a prosecco Tory. If you know what I mean by that. Like he is that. They're the same. They're one and the same thing, just with a different name. Yeah, that's what they call. That's what they call the socialist. We call it a champagne socialist equivalent. You know what I mean? They call it prosecco Tory. But listen, you know what? Just saying that quickly. I'm really kicking myself. I was telling David this as well. I had a really fantastic video and it would have been a great ending because I also filmed David when not in his house, but like, you know, like, but I'm talking about when he's doing campaigning and stuff. And you know, I do, you know, I just get little pieces, edit it together, and then put it on all of the social media stuff, yeah, and all the other candidates too, and for Heritage, I mean. And I had a great, and Lawrence Fox was going around in this bus at Trafalgar Square, and he went around the roundabout then, and I just got my phone out just on time, and I filmed it, and I've got quite a loud voice, you can probably tell. And even though he was across the street on a London busy, upstairs in a double-decker on a busy London road, I shouted, you know, vote David Curtin, right? And he actually responded to me in the megaphone and said, oh, I'll pretend I didn't hear that, you know, some of that. So he said a good humour, but what I was kicking myself was at some point during that big Saturday march, that's when it was, the one just gone on the 24th, I must have hit the mute button at some point during all this filming. So I pretty much missed, like, you know, just all of it a waste, and it would have been the perfect ending. Then it would have come up like in text, you know, vote David Curtin, blah, blah, you know. But I thought, but you know, one of those things.
To be fair, I think anyone's got to be better than Sadiq Khan, isn't he? You know, he's so out of touch. The geezer's, you know, I don't know if you've seen this tweet that came about today. I just want to show you this because we've got a knife crime epidemic on our streets. You've got kids being killed every weekend as a stabbing, and he's put this tweet up. Have you seen this?
No.
So, you know, like I said, we got a knife crime epidemic with kids killing each other, and then we've got him now tweeting, talking about he'll be tackling the taboo of menopause.
Do you know what's bad? Like, I swear to God, like, do you know, like, the conspiracy theorist people say there's a one world government, yeah? Because you know they were talking about Build Back Better and all that, and they're all saying it, yeah.
He was saying
I've seen one that tweet of Khan, yeah. I've just seen one because David Curtin's retweeted it and commented on it. Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, has said basically the exact same. Yes, pretty much the same thing, but he's actually used the word, this is not just a recession, it's a sheen session.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
yeah.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
But then you do, as you just said there, you know, you've got these conspiracy conspiracists that say, you know, there's a one world government, you know, and it doesn't matter who's in power, you know, they're all control, blah, 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 blah. But then you start seeing them, all these different parties and all these different world leaders all singing from the same hymn sheet. You start thinking, oh, hello, what's going on here?
All going on about Build Back Better, all going on about I don't know, I don't want to like get your channel, the V passport, yeah.
Yeah, we can't talk about the V or the 5.
Yeah. So that, and now this. Well, that's the second leader I've seen say that now about menopause, you know, women-related stuff. So, but just going back to what you said there about anyone's better than Khan, I actually disagree with that, because if you look, like, I am now of the opinion that, I mean, everyone says this, but I mean, I really seriously believe it, is that if you are seriously thinking of voting for Sean Bailey, the Conservative candidate no one's ever heard of, as the mayor, then I'm sorry, you've been conned. Like, you are, and I'm just going to, frankly, you're part of the problem, because people think that if you, I'm going to be edgy and vote Conservative. It's like, why would you ever do that? It's like the governing party of this country has literally taken away all of our civil liberties, has caused mass unemployment, has got us into further never-ending debt. We're now £2 trillion in debt. And people, I like to talk a bit more about economics rather than David does sometimes, you know, like, and, you know, he's more the science guy because he's got a master's in chemistry, and he knows what he's talking about when he talks about that particular thing that's going around you may have heard of. But, you know, like I talk more about common sense and economics, and people don't understand how exactly much to like just 1 trillion is. Like, they just think, oh, million, billion, trillion, it's all the same. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't actually understand how much a trillion is. So let me put it like this so people quite understand this. If you were born and you just had the magical ability to be able to count as soon as you popped out of your mother, right? And you spent your entire lifetime to the average age of 82, 83, yeah, of the average age of a man, and you counted non-stop from 0 to 84, you would still never reach a trillion. Like, your lifetime is less than a trillion, right? It's like just a billion seconds ago, it was the 1980s. And then a billion minutes ago, it was the Roman Empire was about. And then a billion hours ago, men still lived in caves. And that's a billion. That's not even a trillion, right? So when people say, oh, our children will be paying off that debt, it ain't just the children, mate. It's going to be the great grandchildren, mate. And that's you're just assuming as well that the debt's going to go down from now. I don't think so. This irresponsible socialist conservative government that we got now, this conservative party that we got, they know nothing of economics. It's unbelievable. They just print. And people don't understand as well is that you go, oh, well, I've got a super savers ISA account and all this, but the more money that's printed, it devalues your money, even if it's in a super savings account. It's pointless. Like, you know, it devalues you. It's a stealth tax. People don't realize they're being absolutely screwed. And once people, this is what I honestly think. I mean, we're talking about conspiracy theory. I honestly, seriously believe that there is a reason why the state education system does not make economics a mandatory subject. Because at the end of the day,
money. Yeah.
They don't know about money because at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. You can't, no matter how hard you try, and no matter how much fear you put into it, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5, it equals 4. And the reason why they don't teach you economics is because, as Henry Ford said, the guy who created the Ford motor, you know, if people understood how money worked, there would be a riot tomorrow. There would be a revolution tomorrow because they don't realize they're being screwed.
It's a fiat currency.
You know, like, it's garbage, mate. It is glorified monopoly money. It's just that because we live in the lie, it's like the emperor's new clothes. We just go along with it because we don't understand. Do you know what I mean? It's just it's ignorance is bliss, and it's like, do you know like home economics, right? You know the lesson home economics that you probably cooked some cheese on toast or whatever with, yeah. Do you know originally that was actually meant to be about how to manage a household? It's literally in the name. It's called home economics. Food was a part of it, but it wasn't like, it was like a tiny minor thing in it. And, you know, it was about, you know, part of it was buying, shopping, balancing a budget, never getting into debt, how to get a mortgage, how to you know, change the wheel on a car. It was stuff that you will experience in life. Do you know what I mean? And what it's been watered down, reduced to, is simply, oh, here's how to fry an egg. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's this sort of like, we've been totally taken for a ride.
Yeah.
Like, and people don't understand, like, because the whole point, our money system works based on ignorance. You know, like, it's like, that's the only way it can work. And it's just like, because the state wants you to get into debt. They want you to get into debt. They want you to be forever reliant on them. Go on UBI, go on state welfare, go on this, because once you lose your job, like what this lockdown has done, you then become totally reliant on the state. Like it's like a drug dealer giving new customers like the strongest drug, so they'll become addicted to it, and then there'll always be a customer to that drug dealer. Then, do you see what I mean? That's what it's like, because you become subservient then to the state, you know, to that individual, or to that entity. Sorry. So it's like, it's that, and that's what this is all about. And people get like, it's all good. All of these parties all talk about and not just the major parties. I mean, like the more smaller parties as well. All they ever talk about is civil liberties. And I always say is that, yeah, but freedom is made up of two components. It's made up of civil liberties, like, yeah, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, etc. But it's also, the second part of it is the Danny DeVito to the Arnold Schwarzenegger, but still equally as important, economic liberty. If you don't have economic liberty, you can have all the free speech you want, but if you don't have economic liberty, you're not free. And we're just walking around with an invisible ball and chain called debt. That even our unborn children, as soon as they're born, they've essentially got that. We just give them that invisible ball and chain because they won't be able to afford anything. I mean, I honestly see within our lifetimes, we will see £10 a pint. We will see that, because that's just the way that it's just going, because our money's just becoming, even in your mother, your family's time, your grandfather's time, they used to say a pound was a lot, like that was like a really important thing, a pound. And now it's just, we just, what I mean? Like I said, we're £2 trillion in debt. It is like I said, you can't count to $1 trillion. That's how much it is. But I'm rambling. Go on.
No, you're right. You're good, man. I mean, we know Sadiq Khan. He's got London into, I think it's 1.9 billion or something like that in debt. And as you know, I'm sure you probably
but look, this is what I'm saying. Look what I mean though. It's like, but yet the Conservatives just gave Sadiq Khan a blank check. Like, I mean, if this was truly, if this was truly a Conservative government or a Conservative party, can you imagine Thatcher doing something like that? Like going, oh, what's that, Sadiq? You bankrupted TfL? Well, here's a blank check then. Sign away whatever you want. Do you think that would happen? No way, mate. She'll be like, that's it. You got to sort yourself out, mate. This purse is shut. That will be it. But that's what I'm saying. People think, oh, anything's better than Sadiq Khan. No, it's not. Sean Bailey, the Conservative candidate for mayor, will be just as bad as Khan, just as woke.
To be fair, what I meant by that comment there, Sean, was that
I know what you mean. But yeah.
He's
just. Yes, I mean, yeah. Okay. I'll give some ground. Yeah, I'll say
he's pony, isn't he?
Yes, the Conservatives will be slightly better than Khan, but you're still going to get. But I mean, I always say that the Conservative Party is only ever 2 years behind the Labour. So whatever Labour are talking about now, the Conservative Party will be there in 2 years, right? Because this is how it should be. Yeah, this is the opposition. This is Conservative. Yeah, when Labour starts talking their drivel, yeah, right. Conservatives should be stopping them and retaking that ground again. But what happens is that Labour just mow on in. And then Conservatives then give ground, and then they go, right, we're not giving any more ground. Right, right, we showed you,
And that's what I say, Sean.
And then about a few months later, they'll just take more, and that's been going on for like the last 30 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and that's what I think you might have seen me say this before, but I think what I say, politics has shifted so far left now that over the past 20 years, anyone that was seen as centered is now seen as far right.
But this is the thing. But this is what makes me laugh. It's like
he's racist, gravity is racist.
You're right. But although I'll say this, I personally don't see the world in left and right anymore. That I don't use language like, oh, he's a lefty or regressive left or anything like that. I personally don't. I used to say that, but because now I think, especially after the last year and a half, I think a lot of people. We now see what I think it's not about left versus right. It's more about liberty-minded people versus tyranny, or the, as I would say, it was libertarians versus authoritarianism. But it's liberty-minded people. Because when you look, because like you said about the far-right label, it's hilarious. I even said this the other day. I said, I think I said this in a tweet only yesterday, funny enough, on, I don't know if you know Zuby, on one of his tweets, yeah? And because even Zuby, a black rapper guy who is, a libertarian, liberty-minded person, he's been called far right. And it's just, I was, another thing saying that this mythical unicorn far right term, there's like, that you got you've got all of these kind of like fun people in there. You've got Zuby, you've got myself, you've got Piers Corbyn, like, you know, Jeremy Corbyn's brother. You've got David Curtin. You've got all races, all genders. Well, you know, two genders. You've got all religions. You've got, you know what I mean? Like, this sounds like kind of a fun group to be with. This sounds like a very inclusive group. You know what I mean? Compared to what the other lot are, who are just usually monotone sort of white people, who are look malnourished and they just talk the same nonsense that don't make any common sense at all. So you know what I mean? So it's weird because they're all the ones that are from the one thing that they're claiming that we are. It's like, no, we're actually you know, we're inclusive because we've got also. I mean, like, you know, as well, like, you know, David Curtin traditionally more on the right, Piers Corbyn traditionally more on the left, but yet they're both called far right. It doesn't make any sense, the whole thing.
I'll tell you what,
So,
I've seen in the London Assembly, I've seen David Curtin standing up, you know, talking this, that, the other, and I believe he was the only person who stood up to speak against 4-year-olds studying LGBTQ.
yeah, and he was proper
sexual education and whatnot.
Yeah,
and he was ridiculed for that. You
really?
know, you know,
yeah.
And I mean, that's disgusting.
He was actually asked. He was asked to leave the chamber as well. He was asked to.
Oh wow.
You know, no, he wasn't asked by the chair, but I think one of the other. I think the Lib Dem or Green or Labour. I don't know who. Probably the Conservatives. I don't know. They all. One of them or some of them
all the same anyway.
Yeah, they are. Honest to God, I mean, I was like, we've got a candidate in Croydon who's running in the by-election there for Kenley Ward. So if anyone in Kenley, please vote for Zach. He was on there was a hustings yesterday, a Zoom one. And I was saying to someone, I was speaking to them like, you know, online whilst this hustings was going on. And I said to the guy, my friend, I said, honest to God, had the vicar not told us what party they were from, I would have never guessed what one's what. I would have been like, are they all Labour? Like, you know, I'd be like, what one's the Conservative? What one's the Green? What one's the Lib Dem? They're all talking the same crap. Like,
Sean, what this the London Assembly, right? So if you're successful, because what is it? Is it there's 25 members? That's right, isn't it? 25 members.
25. There's 25 Assembly members. 13 of them are chosen via constituency, and that's the old-fashioned first past the post system, which is totally skewed against small parties. So you're never getting true representation of the constituency or nationally, because like UKIP. I mean, I was never a member of UKIP personally, but UKIP got like a massive vote share, like only like in the peak of their time in 2016, but I think in the 40%, and yet they only had one MP. Like, you know, that's a broken system. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, so no MPs, but yeah, I think it's 11, isn't it? You get 11. 11.
So 13 of them are done via constituency. And then the remainder, the 11, are done through proportional representation.
Yeah, 14 by them, yeah, and 11 yeah.
So
how
11.
How
11,
are you? What I'm trying to get at is as you're standing, for you to be elected, how do you get elected then? Are you part of the 14?
Yeah, I'm number. Yeah, no, because the constituencies are done separately, and then it's done through London-wide lists. So I'm on I'm number 2. David Curtin is number 1, because Plan B is, if David can't get elected as mayor, the Plan B is hopefully he at least retain his London Assembly seat, and I'll join him hopefully if we get enough votes. I think last time David was number 2. Funny enough, last time Peter Whittle was number 1, and I think they got 6% of the vote, and that translated as two candidates from that party. So we need at least like 6%, hopefully. It does depend.
So do you think that the London Assembly is really worth going for? Because what I've seen is, like, you know, like I said, I watched the videos. I've seen Dave Curtin in action, and that's why I'm by him. That's why I like him, what he stands for. But I know that you need to have 2/3 of the London Assembly to agree on something to change a policy or a strategy of the mayor. So unless if you get 2/3 of the London Assembly agreeing on something, nothing's ever
Yeah,
going to
that's right.
change. You can just stand and ask
No,
them
no,
questions all day long.
I thought you were going to say, do you think the London Assembly is a good idea? Like, do you think that his
Yeah,
existence is a good idea? And my answer is
yeah,
absolutely not. I mean, it's funny because, like I said, I was running as an independent candidate before David asked me to be in the Heritage Party, and I was going to run on a platform to abolish the London Assembly because it is an absolutely pointless.
it just seems it doesn't get.
And
It's just doesn't go around. It
it
just goes
doesn't.
around the houses.
It is the London equivalent to MEPs. Like, they have no real power.
Yeah.
The mayor just does what he or her wants, and they can't. AMs, assembly members, they can't make legislation. They can't propose anything. They have no say on Transport for London. The only thing they can really do is just pass pointless motions, talk rubbish, and
10 times a year. It's just 10 times a year, isn't it?
You get, like this, and you know what? I'm glad. I think maybe I'm influencing David, like subconsciously, maybe, because he even went on Peter Whittle's show. He's got just the other day. It's called New Culture Forum. That's the name of the channel. But the show is called "So What You're Saying Is," that named after Kathy Newman's. When she interviewed Jordan Peterson, she kept saying, when she got really owned, like, when she was going, so what you're saying is that you hate all women, he's going, no, like, it's that. So he went on Peter Whittle's show and he said, you know what, Peter, I probably shouldn't be saying this because, I'm obviously running for mayor and possibly London Assembly, but I think I'm just going to campaign to get rid of it. It's absolutely useless. Like, it's just, I think I've seeped into his subconscious.
More trouble than it's worth.
That's what I'll be doing, because me personally, what I was going to do was I was going to take a book out of a page out of Farage's book, because he obviously went to the European Parliament, got voted in, and then he basically spent 20 years, well, hopefully I wouldn't spend 20 years, but he spent his entire duration in the European Parliament talking about how rubbish the European Parliament is and how we need the EU. I would pretty much do the same thing. I'll be in the London Assembly just saying how stupid and rubbish this body is, how we're all paid of taxpayers' money. There's no such thing as government money. There's only taxpayers' money. We're paid, 60 grand a year to just meet up 10 times a year or some nonsense. Say to the mayor, I don't think you should do that, only for the mayor to do it anyway, and not really do anything. And it's just basically a training place. It's another layer of bureaucracy. It's just another.
Just before I have to finish up. So just before we go, just want to do a quick speedball for you. So people watching this, why would they vote for the Heritage Party? Will they be voting for yourself and for David Curtin? What's the Heritage Party going to do for Londoners?
Well, what he's going to do, as soon as day one of if David Curtin is elected mayor, he will immediately tell the Met Police, because he's the police and crime commissioner as well as being the mayor, to not enforce the coronavirus regulations. Therefore, all businesses can reopen. He would also immediately stop Sadiq Khan's statue destruction committee. He would also, every road that the mayor controls, TfL roads, would be where taxis go. So wherever buses can go, taxis can go, because they don't have that at the moment under Khan. And he would remove all of the LTNs, or low traffic neighborhoods. He would not expand ULEZ. He would not expand the congestion charge. And it would be basically a common sense mayor. I myself, if I get in as London Assembly member, I will be challenging whomever the mayor is, if it's not David Curtin, and basically doing the exact same policies. And like I said, I'll be using it as a platform as well to tell how useless this entire body is and give the money back to the taxpayers. And that's what I think it should do. So it's just common sense sort of politics.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Sean. Really appreciate you coming on and having a chat with us. And I wish you and
Thank you.
David Curtin and the Heritage Party as well.
Vote for David, yeah, David and the Heritage Party, and also nationwide as well, because we've got 40 candidates in all around the country. So if it happens to be a Heritage Party candidate in your area, please do vote for them.
Make sure. I mean, I can see this party taking off
Yeah, we're in it
within a
for the
year or
long
so.
term, mate. We're not like Reclaim and Brian Rose's one. We're here for the long term, mate. This is just one chapter in many long adventure, hopefully.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Sean. You take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.